Welcome back, everyone. I thought today I would do the question and answer session that I promised you. I want to thank everybody who submitted questions to me. I got quite a few. Again, want to thank you guys for that. If this turns out as good as I think it does, maybe in the comments down below you can leave me some more questions, and maybe in a few weeks to a month I'll do another one of these. So guys, let's get started. First, we've got Mike Rouse Dower asks, in what item in retro gaming, game or system that you haven't found you would consider your holy grail? Right now there's probably a couple of them. Both of them are vintage computer games. One I've had a couple chances to get. One I actually own and let go, and I regret it to this day. The first one is Ultima 1. For any system, you know, the Atari 8-bit, Commodore 64, even a PC. I would probably even take the re-release that they did in the mid-'80s as opposed to the early '80s one, because that one's probably closer to $1,000, so I probably can't afford that one. But the re-release that was mid-'80s, I probably could afford it. It's a few, you know, $200, $300, $400. Love to see one come in the store. Love to have an opportunity to get that one. The other one is a game that I owned at one time about 10 years ago. I got it in a deal on eBay. It was a whole bunch of sealed games, and it was a sealed copy. That is Legend of Black Silver. It's the sequel to Legacy of the Ancients. It was a Commodore 64, Apple II PC game. Legend of Black Silver, I think, were only released on Commodore 64 and Apple II. I got it. I think I paid like $30 for like 5 games. Sold that game back on eBay for like $140, and I regret it to this day because that's about what a box copy goes for. You know, always thinking, I really don't like collecting for sealed stuff, but I really shouldn't have let it go because I'm not sure if I'm ever going to get that game in my collection again. All right, Dungi Forever asks, what's your favorite boss fight ever in video games? I'm going to do a couple on this one as well. Probably retro is probably going to be Link to the Past when you fight Shadow Link. I did that probably in my late teens, early 20s. Super hard fight when you fight the Shadow Link. But I was able to do it back in the day. I'm not sure I could do it now. The other one, I've got to say, is World of Warcraft. When I was in a pretty big raiding guild, back when World of Warcraft had just come out, you only could get to max level 60, and there were some dungeons. It's probably when we spent 2 months in Molten Core, and we finally finished that raid. It was pretty darn amazing feeling because of all the deaths we had previously. So yeah, that was just an amazing feeling, when we were able to finally put it all together and complete that. Parton Joe asked, do you think you will ever open up an actual storefront? I'm never going to say never. I really want to do it someday. Right now, I just don't think it's the right time to do it. You really need to have a good 6 months to a year's salary set up before you do something like that. If we do open one up, I'd like to open it up a couple miles away from where we're currently setting up at the flea market. That way we can stay open at least for a month at the flea market and kind of point people towards our new storefront. A lot of the collectors hopefully would go over there as well. Right now we just can't really afford doing that. It's just too expensive to open up a store, but you never know. I guess never say never. The Georges asks, what's your favorite PS2 game that you'd like to go back and play over and over? I'm not a big, playing a game over and over again, especially because I love RPGs, and, playing them over and over again is just not something you would do. But for the PS2, there are a couple games that I'm currently going back and playing. That's Dark Cloud 1 and 2. I'm currently playing Dark Cloud 1. I'm going to answer the question why I quit playing it here shortly, because there's another game that is now taking up pretty much all my time. We'll go into that shortly. After I get back, though, to Dark Cloud 1 and completed, I am going back to Dark Cloud 2 and finishing it again as well, specifically because I'm going to play it on the PS4 because of all the trophy support and the upscaling, being able to play it on the PS4. All right. NLW1000 asks, what's your current Holy Grail in my collection? Currently, I'm going to say most valuable is the probably Legend or Panzer Dragoon Saga for the Saturn. It's like a $400 or $500 game. As far as rarity, it's probably going to be either Sword Quest Waterworld for the 2600 or Tooth Protectors for the 2600. They're both are between $100, $150, $200 a piece. But as far as rarity, they're like 9s and 10s on the rarity schedule for rarity guide for the 2600. So yeah, those are probably my rarest games. He also asks, when you set up at a flea market, how do you go about pricing your games? Well, when somebody comes in the store, they want to sell something to us, we normally give between 40 and 50% value if it's just, common to decent stuff. The Marios, the Zelda stuff, we may actually give more for, because we normally sell those like a little over 100%, because that stuff, let's take Super Mario All-Stars. I sell it, I think it's like a $22, $23 game. We sell it for $23, $24. A lot of other people in the booth in the flea market sell that for $30. So we don't go that high, but that's always just a little couple dollars more than value, because I know that stuff's going to sell. But your more normal common stuff and your pretty decent stuff, that's normally about 90%. Let's say a game's $5.60 in value, we sell it for $4.99. That's about what I like to do to keep the prices competitive. And we sell a lot because of that. Like last weekend, all those N64 games we got, we probably sold half of them just because we were a little bit lower than, you could find them on eBay, or you could find them in a game store in our area. He also asks, what do you got in your collection? Let's see, what got you into collecting, and when did you really start to collect? Well, what got me into collecting, there's a lot of systems I was missing that I missed out on probably in the mid to late 90s, specifically late 90s, that I wanted to go back to, like the Super Nintendo. I went from Nintendo to Genesis, had never played a Super Nintendo, and when I really got into role-playing games, there were just tons that I'd heard about, Chrono Trigger, Earthbound, and I wanted to get a Super Nintendo to play. So basically, me and a good friend of mine, we'd go out every weekend to the flea markets. We had a gentleman that I probably bought 90% of my stuff from, specifically the vintage computer stuff and some of the video games. I'd go out there and just big piles of stuff together. He'd give me really good deals, and that's how I got probably 90% of my stuff back in the day. Devin Shevlin asks, what games are you currently on the lookout for your collection? What system do you think has the best library of games? As far as what I'm on the lookout for, like I said, Ultima 1, Legend of Black Silver for the vintage computers, Alternate Reality, The Dungeon. I'm looking for a box copy of that, either for the Commodore 64, Atari 8-bit. Always looking to add NES and Super Nintendo stuff that I don't have. I'm not really looking for the common stuff, but some of the uncommon $8 to $10 to $15 games I'm always looking to add to my collection. And what was the other part? What do I think the best library has the best library of game? What system? I'm going to go with either PS2 or PS1 or Super Nintendo. I think Super Nintendo is super strong, especially for JRPGs and just some amazing platformers, and even some really amazing beat 'em ups as well. Then you get into the PS1 games with all the JRPGs. That thing, the system has thousands of games for it as well. Another amazing system. Midnight Hunters asks, what goodies have you gotten by Scott from video game sellers, and also have you gone back to the Wagon Wheel Flea Market? It's been months since I've been to the Wagon Wheel Flea Market, because I work a 5-day-a-week job. Then I also spend 2-day-a-week at the flea market, like 8 hours each day at the flea market. I just don't have a lot of time anymore to do that. But I do definitely plan on going and seeing Scott again. Some of the stuff I've recently got, unfortunately, was not really for my collection. It was for the store. I traded him some, gym PS1 games and got some PS4 games from him. I think one of the better things I got from him was months and months and months ago. I think I got a loose copy of Silent Hill for him, which I'm really happy to get because I didn't have that one in my collection. Burns Resale Shop asks, are you any closer to finding or still looking for a place to have a brick and mortar store? I've already answered that. Not right now. Like I said, we'd really like to be able to have 6 months to a year's worth of salary set up before we get into a brick and mortar store. It's just too expensive. My wife would probably be the one to run it, and I'd keep my full-time job for now. And what game are you currently playing? Well, I was playing Dark Cloud 1. Then Stardew Valley came out for Steam, and I've probably put almost 80 hours into that game now, and I'm still playing it. I'm like close to the starting the third season, like farming season. If you don't know what Stardew Valley is, think of Animal Crossing mixed with Harvest Moon. There's like relationship stuff. There's collectibles like Animal Crossing, and then there's the farming and the animals. I mean, you can get married and have kids in the game. It's a really, really amazing game, guys. If you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. I may do, in the next week or so, do a video on that game just to show you guys what it looks like. All right. John9111 asked, how old are you? Well, I am 45. And he asked, how long have you been married? I think it's like 5 or 6 years. Have any kids? I do not. My wife has two grown adults. So you and your wife have day jobs, or do you focus on the big top only? Like I said, I have a 40-plus hour job I work 5 days a week at. I'm an IT tech. And on the weekends, that's when I spend my time at the flea market to do it. Don't have a lot of time off doing this, but I do enjoy the flea market. So it's kind of like a little bit of relaxing time when I'm not, hooking stuff up and selling stuff. It gets a little crazy sometimes at the flea market, but I still enjoy it. My wife did quit her job she had been doing as a counselor. Now she kind of runs our online store and cleans stuff. If we get games that need to be cleaned during the week, she'll clean that stuff. So we'll have it for the flea market on the weekends. Now we've got Montiel Volge 19. What is your favorite game? If you've watched my top 20 games of all time, you will know that. I think I put that out maybe 4 months ago. That's Wizard's Crown for the Atari 8-bit computer, Apple II, Commodore 64, and PC. It is a tactical RPG. The reason it's my favorite, as I said previously, it is the first RPG that I ever played. It is also the first RPG I ever completed. The second RPG I completed was its sequel, Eternal Dagger. And the original Wizard's Crown game, the guys that worked on this heavily influenced the Pool Radiance game. They actually worked on that. So the battle engine in Wizard's Crown, even though it's a little more complicated, it is very, very similar to Pool Radiance. We have the Garrett 9687 asks, when did you start your game collection? Again, that was probably in the mid to late 90s is when I started collecting games heavily. Did your wife like video games before you met her, or did she start looking at them because of you? She kind of started looking at them because of me. She was more into like the puzzle games, the real casual games. There was a game called Saint Aquarium that she absolutely loved. But because of me, she got hooked on World of Warcraft, and that's probably her main game right now. We haven't played it in a while, but here shortly, once the expansion comes out, we'll probably go back to it, and it'll keep us probably a good 6 months playing the game, and then we'll probably stop again. Unless, the new expansion is really good and keeps us interested in it, I guess we'll have to see. But right now, that's basically all the game that she pretty much plays is the World of Warcraft. All right. The Gaming Prong asks, what type of games do you like? Of course, that's role-playing games. What systems do you like collecting for? Some of my favorites to collect for are the 2600, and of course all the 8-bit computer systems or vintage PC stuff from the mid to late 80s to early 90s. I love collecting for that. Got a lot of that stuff. You can't see it on the side over here in my collection already, but there's always a few things that I'm still looking for. How long have you been set up at the flea market? We've been there about a year and about 3 months, I think, is how long we've been there. And what do you sell the most of? What we sell the most of probably at the flea market are Super Nintendo and N64 games. The really good stuff, the Marios, the Zeldas, that kind of stuff, it's almost impossible to keep in stock. As soon as we get that stuff in, it goes out the door. So yeah, that's probably the most, as far as systems that we sell for, are the Super Nintendo and N64. Do you sell on eBay? We do. Right now we're very small. I think we've got some vintage PC stuff up. Later on we may put more. Right now we're not really doing heavy on eBay. We're doing more price charting because of the fees on eBay and PayPal, how much they take. And price charting is a lot more better for us, even though unfortunately the audience isn't as good. But we're hearing possibly that price charting is going to switch to PayPal instead of Stripe. So that may actually bring some more people in. Let us see. We have John Sobry asked. Okay, I got a few. First, are there any games that you are afraid to take in because of bootleg problems? If we get any Earthbounds or Chrono Triggers in, you can be damn sure I am going to unscrew the bolts on those and look inside just to see what the board looks like. Because I know pretty much the Chrono Trigger and Earthbound are probably two of the most counterfeited games out there right now. So anytime we get that stuff in, which we haven't gotten any in yet, but if they do come in, I'm going to open them up and take a look at them. And then second, do you prefer to just take in games only, or take in boxes or instructions to boost up resale to make them complete in box? Well, if we have a really good game come in and it's only a box and manual, I've taken them in. I think a couple weeks ago I took Little Mermaid in for the NES. Was missing the cartridge, but a box and manual, and maybe a month ago we took in Pokemon Yellow box and manual only, and just so happens the next day we got a loose copy of Pokemon Yellow, which allowed me to complete that one, and we sold it a couple weeks later. And the last one is Dark Side Undervader. What's the rarest game you have in your collection? Again, kind of already answered that. The rarest game, I'm going to say, are the two 2600 games. That's Sword Quest Waterworld or Tooth Protectors. And the most valuable game that I have in my collection is still Panzer Dragoon Saga for the Saturn. So guys, thanks again for watching and sending me all these questions to answer. Like I said, in the comments below, leave me some more questions if you can, and maybe in a month or so I'll do another one. So guys, thanks again.